Welcome back, everybody. Time for another episode of CRM Radio. Today, taking a look at the ever-changing CRM space. Today and tomorrow. The voice of customer relationship management with the industry's leading voice, Paul Peterson from Goldmine CRM. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Paul Roberts, producer extraordinaire.
We're always looking for a voice in the wilderness to guide us through the craziness here. Follow my voice.
So I was thinking about you because you're one of the few people in that office building that you're broadcasting from, right?
Yeah, right. I think I'm the only one in this 6-story office building.
Early in my career, and this would be the 70s, I worked for McDonald's and was part of a programming team, real computing time team. Now think about that in 1974.
Yeah.
It's when DEC, the President Olson, said, well, I can't see the need for a PC. I remember a classic.
Yeah.
And then Mac came. But I ran a help desk, and I had to go in every morning at 6 on a Sunday to start, as the stores closed their books, to answer technical questions and accounting questions and whatnot. And I was the only one there. But there was a calmness to walking through that corporate complex when there was nobody there and the lights were off except where I was situated. So do you feel that? Is it calming or is it distracting?
I think it's something different. It's eerie. It's like after the blast. I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone episode and everybody's, was taken away or something here. It's strange.
Yesterday I took the afternoon off and golfed at a local club, and it's a resort off of a Hilton hotel, and it's a big Hilton hotel, normally with weddings, sales meetings, vibrant place, pool, restaurant, and like you said, empty lot, a number of golfers going out, just eerie. It's like, wow, where is everybody?
Where is everybody? Well, hopefully they're going to come back out. Hopefully they're home listening to this show because you've got some great advice from a guest who's been here before.
As we go through some of our friends, they're finding some controversial topics, and I think there'll be plenty of discussion about public policy around pandemics and preparedness. So whenever I think of controversial, I think of Gene Marks. So Gene Marks, welcome.
Why do you think of that, Paul? My goodness.
Well, because you are the most polite contrarian I know, right? And for many years, you'll catch somebody's attention by stating something that maybe people wouldn't put quite the same way, right?
Maybe. Sometimes I definitely put my foot in my mouth, for sure. But I do a lot of writing, you have to have a point of view, and
right.
And that's just
an authentic
like
one,
like
right?
That.
And by the way, by introduction, Gene Marks, I've known Gene for some 20 years, writes a column for the Washington Post and the New York Times, it's on Fox and MSNBC, published a couple of books on small business, and so is an expert. And in addition, is a CRM consultant for Microsoft and Goldmine for many, many, many years. So a lot of credentials. Right. I couldn't think of anybody that I want to talk to during this time as yourself. So we're talking about contrarian or controversial, and I happened to see one of your tweets, and it was about should you use your camera for that Zoom meeting. And I've been on Zoom meetings now with my family, with work, of course, and others. And it's like everybody's turned into the Brady Bunch, the opening sequence to the Brady Bunch, right? What did you decide?
Here's the gist of the article. I have been invited to Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams meetings and all that stuff really for the past few years. I deal with a lot of larger corporations, and I don't know, and I don't know if you're the same way, Paul, but for all the time, they usually give you a dial-in number, and I just call from my cell phone, and because I'm out and about or I'm walking around or putting away laundry if I'm at home, whatever, and I'll take the call that way. And during this pandemic, because I've been more at my desk and I'm getting more Zoom meeting requests because everybody's at home, right? I'm like, I guess I'll just connect and do the whole online Zoom meeting thing, not from my phone, but I'll do that with my webcam. And every Zoom meeting I'm going to, where there's 3, 4, 5, 8 people, everybody's on video. In fact, it was obvious when somebody was not on video, because there's just it's a blank with a phone icon shows up. And I was like, Jesus, am I being all these years, have I been super rude? It seems like everybody else is doing the Zoom things on video and I've been sort of not. And now I think I gotta shower more often and change my shirts and actually go and use this video now with Zoom because that's what the world happens to be doing. I wasn't even realizing that was going on.
Well, I think in the past you took it more like a conference call, right? And if you wanted to put your camera on.
Yeah.
But my camera, for example, looks up at me as opposed to across to me, and my background isn't set up and so forth. But today we were on an internal call, And I thought it was just going to be a few people chatting about our plans. And instead, the company wants everybody to turn on their camera so that they see people, because you're not seeing people, right? And I realized, to your point, my hair was like all the guy in Back to the Future, but
right.
All wild and T-shirts. Right. I strapped on a hat and got my headset, and I'm not sure it helped, but it comes up more. And I've recommended to my kids, now you have to be more presentable at home, right?
Yeah, definitely a change.
I can't walk through one of my Zoom calls with my family. My sister-in-law gets up and walks away and gets coffee, and other people are apparently applying makeup. Folks.
But I kind of like that, don't you? Like, I think it's funny when somebody's dog appears, or a kid inadvertently opens the door and comes into the conference call, or you get to see people's, I don't know, their homes, their rooms where they're in, and I've been enjoying it. I'm it's kind of interesting and kind of fun to do that. Have you seen, there was one viral video, there's been a bunch of them, but one in particular where it was some woman on a company conference call, and she didn't realize her video was on, and she took her laptop with her into the bathroom. Did you see that one?
I did not see that one.
Oh my God!
I'll look for it later.
Funny situations. Yeah.
we knowing what to do on the camera. Then today I was reminded of something funny. I used to have on my desk a little. If you've ever seen the Staples, that was easy button, right? There was a button where you could hit it, and it would make a doorbell sound. So if you wanted to get out of a conference call, you could hit that. Oh, somebody's at the door. I got to go. Now that's happening in real life. People are answering packages. Kids are wandering through. Hey, well, the other tweet that I had was about a new series of podcasts you're running about handling the challenges of running a small business in a downturn. And I have a very controversial observation, but I wanted to hear about your series. I'm not sure how many you've had yet, but if there was any theme bubbling up from your audience and readers about the issues they're facing as we try to reopen. Certain industries are going to struggle, like entertainment, sports teams, things like that, right? But other businesses, like hair salons, they could essentially flip the switch and be back to full revenue production within a week.
I don't know about your wife. If my wife is any example, I colored my wife's hair last week, Paul. I'm masculine enough to admit that, but that's not going to happen for the long term. She can't wait to go to her hair salon, and I know that for women, it's a big deal. So I think you're right. They're going to flip a switch, and they'll figure out what to do. The podcast series is with Paychecks. So if you Google, Paychecks podcast, you'll find it. What I've been doing is they're very short 15-minute interviews with business owners as to how they're grappling with problems. Right now, everybody's grappling with coronavirus. There'll be other problems in the future. I did speak to Angie Hicks from Angie's List as well, and some other well-known experts out there about what some of their advice is, too. And my takeaway is that there are some businesses, of course, that can get right back up and running. There are some that, Paul, I talked to a few restaurant owners. It's brutal. It is brutal for those guys in the industry. And we've been doing a lot of stuff with all the Paycheck Protection Program and all the funding. And people ask me, is there going to be a third round? And my feeling is if there's a third round to this funding, they should target industries. The restaurant industry really needs the help. They cannot just flick a switch. Will you go out to a restaurant when they completely pull up the quarantine in Chicago? How do you feel about doing that?
I will. I got a feeling I'm going to be eating alone. My wife has said she will not. One of the things they don't talk about is the herd immunity aspect. I believe we all have to get back out there. Now, I know I'm in a minority, but I would do it. In fact, I was contemplating flying out to see my brother in Omaha, and my wife said, absolutely not. You're not getting on a plane. You're driving. And I don't want to take my car on the road, so I'm going to rent one. No, you're not. How can you be sure it's clean? And it's oh my, and if you land at the airport and you got to get in an Uber car, she said it's like you're restarting your clock. So they're on me. I would get back to business because I feel I'm waiting to be tested for the antibody, but I feel that the stronger ones, you got to protect the infirm and the most vulnerable. But some of the stronger ones of us have to get back out there.
I agree. I feel the same way. And maybe it's just we're naive. God forbid we get CV-19 and it lays us out. That's a problem. And I think you're absolutely right, though. I'm with you. The minority, it's a minority view, but it's a view that we've got to get back to work. We've got to get back to business. And I think it benefits everybody the quicker and as safely as it can happen. But, boy, there are a lot of companies that are going to struggle with getting up and running. And they're going to face some challenges over the next few months. There's no doubt about it.
So are there any major tips evolving from this? In our company, we're saying, keep pressing, keep working. My son works in an industry that's hard-pressed, which is employment. And they keep telling them, just keep making the calls, build some relationships so that we're ready to go. Is there anything that you're any main theme that you're leaning on right now?
I do, and actually, this is a CRM show, and I do have some thoughts when it comes to CRM, because I think that like any downturn in an economy, whether it's 9/11 or a financial crisis or a pandemic, when there's a recovery, there's opportunities. And I think we're going to be seeing, because of this downturn, Paul, unfortunately, there's going to be quite a few many small and medium-sized businesses that are going to be filing bankruptcy over the next 3 to 6 months. And, we're already seeing it with some of the larger retail chains, for example, and that trend is going to continue significantly. And it's Darwinism in a way. Some of those companies probably were heading in that direction anyway, and there were some small businesses that were making money despite their best efforts to go out of business because the economy was strong. They're sort of the first ones to go. But the ones that are left are usually the ones that are more experienced owners, had cash in the bank and managed themselves a little bit better. And there's going to be opportunities to use your CRM system. First opportunity I think about is people. I mean, just 2-3 months ago, our biggest issue was finding good people for our businesses, finding any people for our businesses. Now suddenly there's 16 million unemployed, and a lot of those people aren't going to be going back to their original jobs because for many reasons those jobs might not even be there. And I think that presents a great opportunity to pull out your CRM database and start working it from a networking standpoint, from an emailing, from a reaching out to see what's going on with some key employees that might be looking for jobs, might be looking. If you've got cash, there's no better place to invest your cash, as we know, in good people. And we might stumble and find the opportunity to bring some good people on board because of disruption in the workplace. So that's one big opportunity I think is going to present itself. Another one is just investing in property and equipment. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of real estate deals, and we're going to be seeing a lot of equipment deals, a lot of companies that are trying to raise cash, and they're distressed. And I think we're at an opportunity now where interest rates are low, and I think smart companies will take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think if you've done some savings and have cash, for example, to buy a house right now and things of that sort, mortgage rates are. I mean, my first mortgage was at 18%. Today, I don't know what the mortgage rate is. It was closer to 3%, right? So there is that opportunity for businesses that have struggled. So this would expose any weakness. What do you think the main weakness is for those businesses that have struggled? Where do you think they went?
That's easy.
Wrong?
It's easy. Cash. It's just cash. I mean, in the end, I have a client. He's a goldmine client, and he's still a goldmine client, and he's a long-term client, and he's in the construction business. And the guy has operated this firm for 30 years. He has had anywhere from 20 to 120 employees, depending. He runs the whole business out of the basement of his house with his daughter. He drives a Chevrolet, takes a vacation or two a year, but he has money in the bank. And the reason why, as he told me, is that things are never as good as they seem, and things are never as bad as they seem either. But just in case, he always makes sure that he's got lots of cash and credit availability, because in his business, like in construction, things go up and they go down. And you ask what's sort of the common denominator among companies that do that. They don't overextend themselves. Even if they operate on thin margins.
Oh, did we lose him there?
We did. So, why don't we take this as a break time, and then we'll try to get him back.
Okay.
We're talking with Gene Marks about businesses of all sizes can be aware of. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. We know you rely on your CRM system, and it's usually a love-hate relationship. Most CRM systems, well, let's face it, they're expensive. They're hard to understand. People don't use them properly. And you're probably paying for features that you don't even want. If that's your case, then maybe it's time to simplify. It's time to get more from your CRM. Why don't you go back to the original? Trust Goldmine. We helped pioneer the industry, after all. Goldmine CRM is, well, it's simple, it's affordable, and it's proven. If all those sound appealing to you, if you're just tired of the CRM headaches that you're getting from trying to implement something that's just too complicated, too expensive, and too much for you to figure out, then why not go back to the original? Visit Goldmine today, goldmine.com. Okay, we needed a break anyway there, but I think the problem was that Gene started talking about such contrarian, controversial stuff like putting cash in the bank that the NSA cut us off here. I mean, that's not what the public policy wants to hear. Go spend every dollar you got.
If you listen to the financial experts, they'll say have a couple of months emergency fund, and I was surprised at how fast people ran out of money for food. That really scared me about the economy as a whole. I don't want to get into that. But, Gene, you had a comment, and this is where I'm going to be contrarian, but you had a comment that big banks have failed us when it came to this. So why don't you walk us through what that means, for us? Because that was another catchy.
It is. I can tell you that the big banks have absolutely ruined their relationship with small businesses because of what has occurred during this pandemic. And I'll walk you through the reasons why. The Paycheck Protection Program, Paul, as you know, is this big government funding program to help small businesses cover their payroll and some other expenses. And there's a lot of money that's put into this program. And the gist of the program was put together quickly and got out the door quickly because a lot of small businesses really needed help quickly. And I give a lot of credit to some of the people. Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, did a fantastic job. Him and the Senate Small Business Committee did a great job of putting it together fast and getting it out there. And one of the crucial parts of this program was that it gets distributed through banks. You have to go to a bank to get the money. A lot of small businesses turn to their banks, the big banks, the ones that have been saying to the Bank of Americas and the Wells Fargos, who have been saying for years, we care about small businesses and we want small businesses. Well, unfortunately, those guys, first of all, they only favored customers that had accounts with them, which was exactly against the original principle of the program. Some of the banks were saying, well, we'll consider your application if you sign up for an account with us or get one of our credit cards, which is just crazy. And then as the weeks went on, it turned out that a lot of the big banks were not only very, very slow in coming to the game and extended these loans, whereas a lot of smaller banks did, but then they were also favoring their larger customers. And so reports started coming out that the banks were doing big loans with bigger customers.
So there are a couple of things on this very, very issue because my brother-in-law owns a small business. I have many friends. They found that they dealt with Chase or Bank of America because assets, well-known, lots of resources. But there's a CRM principle that got in the way. Do you know what I'm alluding to?
Go right ahead.
Know your customer, which was federally mandated, that said, okay, you need to know who your customers are. Are they engaged in illicit opportunities, size, things like that? So when the big bank, how do they score that list? Out of all the applications, what did they go to? They went to the Know Your Customer rankings, and many small businesses aren't as noticeable, right? So they went to the big customers. And what I found is my brother-in-law then shifted to a regional bank. And so to your point about operational, and I'm pinging off the walls here, but he went to a regional bank. He got denied at Chase, got approved at a regional bank. I know two or three other people that went through their local bank. So here's that other opportunity. Maybe bank local will become a trend, just as shop local. I think shop local, saving your restaurant. I'm not going to go into the city of Chicago. I'm probably going to populate the first restaurants I'll go to around my neighborhood where we happen to have low COVID incidents anyway. But you're absolutely right. Banks were kind of hamstrung in that the only criteria they had was the federally mandated one, know your customer. And small businesses, they don't take out big loans. Often they have slow pay history and things of that sort. But the regional banks were a lot more forgiving of that kind of factor. So maybe it may be too late to get more money, but maybe rethinking where you bank is a key for small businesses going forward.
I think you're right, and I have to ask you this question, though, because, again, this is a CRM conversation. So if big banks are spending all this money, I mean hundreds of millions in advertising campaigns and public relations campaigns to reach out, to trying to get small business customers, and here is the federal government saying to them, we are giving you the opportunity to connect and build relationships, to have a customer relationship management opportunity with thousands of small businesses. We're handing it to you. We're going to give you fees. We're going to pay you to do this and process these loans. And doesn't it just shock you that the big banks didn't recognize that opportunity, but the smaller banks, they did. They got it.
I think that is, what a way. I mean, everybody talks about small business powering the U.S., right? And how do I get there? And the total addressable market is huge when you look at all the businesses from sole proprietor, and you add sole proprietors or consult, it's huge, right? Yeah, they missed it. That's a brilliant observation from a strategy that said they went to the tried and true. Now, my controversial point was amongst my friends is, well, corporations are citizens too. And apart from the legal fiction that is there, it's like corporations do pay people and across the country and franchisees and things like that, right? So but I was shocked at the anti-business sentiment that was exposed by that. And I looked at it and said, well, yeah, the banks might have done better, but Ruth, Chris, I forget the other, a couple of other names.
Danny Myers.
They employ lots of people, team. Right? So
they do.
Isn't helping them a good thing?
Well, here's what the argument is. Those chains, and many of them are publicly held, they had other sources of capital. Danny Meyer gave his money back, as well as some of the other places, after they were shamed into doing so from the government and the public, and also because they were able to turn to the public markets, because many of them are publicly held companies or had other sources of capital.
And they have credit lines. They have credit lines that a small business often wouldn't have, that this would have helped, right?
That is correct. Whereas the mom and pop pizza shop owner doesn't have that capability. Those are the people that needed the money, and instead Danny Myers and Potbelly and the LA Lakers took the money. I mean, the LA Lakers took a small business paycheck protection loan. I mean, their limited partners alone are worth billions in the bank, and to cover their payroll, instead they went to the government.
I think the optics
and the bank allowed that to happen. They allowed that to happen.
Yeah, that was a shame. But it is it points out that the difficulty here at Goldmine, we've often tried to help customers with evals and other bits and pieces. Giving away stuff is hard, and I don't think our government got. I don't want to get it, but it's hard to give away stuff and administer the program and things like that. So it's I do applaud those companies that did give it back, though. I could make the case that they have lots of people to pay as well. But for small businesses, I would like to see that trend of shop local. So go, especially with the retailers, faltering now. If you can get into smaller clothing shops and specialty stores, things of that sort, there might be a trend back to buy local.
I agree. One other thing on the banking crisis, we talked about people that are winners in this. I mean, again, the small and local banks stepped up. They realized the opportunity to nurture relationships with new small business customers. Check out a lot of the online lenders. Cabbage, with a K, On Deck Capital, Lendio, PayPal. A lot of these companies, they got approval to process these paycheck protection loans, and they've been going out there and now soliciting small businesses come to us. They have the technology infrastructure to handle that, and they have been growing their businesses because, think about how many new customers Cabbage has been introduced to now to help them with this loan that in the long term will turn into more potential financing opportunities with these customers. So I think those guys got the opportunity and they're taking advantage of it as opposed to the big banks.
The Microfocus, I was at a Sonos.com and they had Calendra was for payments. So it's kind of, leasing or, funding. So that's a great point too, that there are other sources of capital that you can take advantage of that are geared to that business. And I think everybody wants to take care of the small business because it's large. The total addressable market for any industry, small business is big, is large. But they're very hard to deal with in terms of scale, right? It's a very transaction-oriented, but you have to provide the same level of quality. So as we head out and wrap up today's show, what words of encouragement would you give us, apart from buck up or stay the course? Is there anything else you'd say to us?
I can tell you this, Paul, and I love to make predictions. You and I are talking now. It's the first week of May. My strong feeling is that the economy will be back on track by the end of the summer. I do believe that we're going to be hearing of more treatments. Already some treatments have been talked about. The vaccine will be out at some point before the end of the year, although that'll only be 40 to 60% effective. But I do think that people are going to be getting back to work once the end of the summer and school starts again. So your job as a business owner is to navigate your way over the next few months. And I hope with a little help from the government and a little help from you and me to support our local businesses, I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast to this radio show will realize that if they can make it through the next few months, I really do think many people will be okay.
And I think one other little insight I would add to that, and thank you, the great prediction, and that is, do try to keep spending a little bit, right? Whether it's your local restaurants or go ahead and buy that tool set or that electronic speedboat. Just do something to keep the economy going a little bit. We took a car in to get serviced while we had some free time. Things like that keep the economy going, even though you want to watch some cash. Try to spend judiciously, but you help everybody keep the wheels on. So for that,
Great.
Gene, I always enjoy talking to you. We get get my energy level up. And you believe in strong business, you believe in capitalism, and you always have good, sensible tips. We can follow you at Gene Marks, GeneMarks. Look him up. His Twitter feed and columns will come up pretty quickly, and you can join him on his podcast. So, Gene, thanks very much for joining us, and surf's up.
The love is mutual, Paul. Thank you.
You've been listening to another episode of CRM Radio Today, one of the many shows on the ever-growing Funnel Radio Network for at-work listeners like you.